The hangar bay thrummed with restless energy, the kind that crawled through metal beams and settled into the bones of anyone standing on the deck. Cadets rushed between rows of supply crates and humming engine cores, their voices clipped with urgency, their movements sharp with a discipline drilled into them since day one. Overhead, the translucent panels of the dome flickered as if they sensed what approached from beyond the horizon. Jace Renn paused beneath the shifting lights, boots planted, rifle strap digging into his shoulder. He told himself the tremor in his hands came from adrenaline, not fear, though the distinction was thinner than he wanted to admit. Beside him stood Kryllian, the crystalline alien mentor assigned to his unit. Light fractured across their faceted armor, scattering prismatic reflections across the scuffed metal floor. Kryllian's posture was rigid, but their expression remained unreadable behind mirrored eyes. "Your pulse is elevated," they observed, voice resonating like tempered glass struck by a tuning fork. "That happens when the alarms won't shut up," Jace answered, forcing a grin that felt brittle. "Physiology is not so easily deceived," Kryllian countered. "Nor am I." Jace huffed, scanning the bay. Shuttles were being armed. Engineers sprinted between fuel lines. Officers barked orders that barely carried over the rising clamor. It reminded him too much of the day Titan's gate fell. The chaos, the tension, the smell of metal heated by panic. He pushed the memory down. That was the past. Today he had the chance to be something other than the survivor who lived in his brother's shadow. He straightened and met Kryllian's gaze. "I'm fine, just ready to move." Before Kryllian could respond, the intercom crackled. "All personnel, prepare for immediate engagement. Hostile presence confirmed. Classification, Null Reaver." The name froze the room. Conversations died mid-sentence. Tools clattered from suddenly limp hands. Someone whispered a curse. Jace felt the blood drain from his face, though he fought to keep his posture steady. The Null Reavers were more myth than memory. Monstrosities from a war humanity barely survived. Creatures rumored to devour entire battalions by absorbing every weapon fired at them. He glanced at Kryllian, only to find the alien already reviewing a cascading hologram of sigils and diagrams. "This is unexpected," Kryllian murmured. "Reavers have not been sighted for generations." "Maybe the records were wrong," Jace said. "Maybe they weren't all destroyed." Kryllian dismissed the projection. That would imply a catastrophic failure of interstellar monitoring. Then maybe something woke one up. "Do not speculate," Kryllian said sharply. "Focus on what is known." Jace bristled but nodded. The alien wasn't wrong. Fear fed on guesswork. Still, the Reaver's reappearance meant something terrible was unfolding, something too big for a single cadet to comprehend. Outside the hangar's shielded dome, a plume of dust rose on the far horizon, swirling like a storm birthing itself. Jace's breath hitched as the silhouette within the haze grew larger and more defined. The creature's metallic hide glimmered beneath the sun, shifting like molten armor, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Kryllian stepped closer to the observation pane, their voice lowering. Null Reavers convert energy into internal reserves. Plasma, fusion bursts, radiation, every assault strengthens them. Then the assault teams are feeding it, Kryllian finished grimly. A distant explosion rocked the desert floor, and through the haze Jace saw a squadron's plasma barrage dissolve harmlessly into the Reaver's surface. The creature surged forward, faster now, its limbs tearing gouges into the sand. Jace swallowed hard. If nothing can hurt it, why aren't we evacuating? Because protocol forbids abandonment of the outpost unless total destruction is assured. Kryllian's gaze softened by degrees. And because your superiors are still searching for an effective countermeasure. Jace didn't like the implication. He tightened his grip on his rifle, even though every story he'd heard insisted that traditional weapons were useless. Kryllian shifted to face him fully. Cadet Renn, your orders are to fall back to the secondary bunkers. You will not engage. No, Jay said before he could stop himself. I'm not hiding underground while that thing tears through everyone up here. Kryllian's crystalline features dimmed in a way Jace had learned to interpret as frustration. You misunderstand. This is not cowardice. This is strategy. You cannot influence this battle. I have to try. To try without purpose is to die without merit. Jace clenched his jaw. The alien's words cut deeper than intended, stirring memories he had avoided for years. His brother's last broadcast, the hopelessness in his voice, the silence that followed. Jace had sworn that if he ever faced a threat like the one that killed his brother, he would meet it head-on. He lifted his chin. I won't be useless again. Kryllian studied him, the shifting lights within their crystalline body slowing, as if they were processing more than Jace's words. Finally they spoke. Your determination is admirable, but determination alone does not shape outcomes. Then teach me how to shape one, Jace insisted. A violent tremor shook the hangar as the Reaver breached the perimeter wall. Personnel scattered. Warning klaxons blared. Kryllian's posture stiffened as the creature's shadow stretched across the outer deck. The alien's voice dropped to a resonant whisper. No weapon can stop it. Jace's heart pounded, but his resolve only sharpened. The fear was there, undeniable, electric, but purpose stood beside it. He lifted his rifle and stepped forward. Maybe it just hasn't met the right one. Kryllian's gaze lingered on him for a long, silent moment. Then the alien moved to his side, crystalline armor crackling with refracted light. Very well. If you insist on defying probability, you will not face it alone. The Reaver's roar tore through the hangar, shaking the rafters. Jace steadied his breathing, rifle firm in his hands, standing shoulder to shoulder with the being who had once dismissed him as impulsive. Together they faced the monstrous silhouette advancing through the smoke. The battle had not yet begun, but Jace felt something shift within him. A spark, a certainty, a refusal to repeat the past. Whatever happened next, he would not run. He took one final breath as the creature's molten glow filled the bay. Let's move, he whispered. The Null Reaver surged into the shattered hangar, each step cracking the reinforced deck plating beneath its colossal weight. Jace felt the tremor climb his legs and settle in his spine, a reminder that the thing approaching was not merely an enemy. It was a force of nature, a calamity given shape. Kryllian moved with him through the drifting haze of smoke and sparks, crystalline joints refracting the burning light pulsing from the creature's core. The alien's movements were precise and deliberate, an anchor of calm against the rising tide of terror. Jace focused on that steadiness as he aimed down the sight of his antique rifle, breathing in short, controlled bursts. The first shot rang out, startling in its simplicity amid the chaos. The recoil hit his shoulder, and a streak of metal flashed across the gap between hunter and human. The bullet struck the Reaver's leg plating with a sharp clang, leaving behind only a shallow dent. But the creature reacted, not with absorption or growth, but with irritation. Its molten glow flickered, unstable for the first time. It noticed, Jace muttered, heart thundering. Noticing is distinct from being threatened, Kryllian reminded him, though their voice carried a faint tremor. Proceed with caution. The Reaver swung its massive head toward them, its many-layered eyes dilating like lenses adjusting to a new spectrum. It let out a guttural vibration that rattled the remaining ceiling beams. Jace stepped back instinctively, but Kryllian moved forward, projecting a shimmer of refracted light that distorted their silhouette. The alien's armor split into fractal mirrors, scattering the Reaver's sensory beams. Move while it recalibrates, Kryllian urged. Jace sprinted across the ruined bay, boots sinking into ash and melted alloy. The Reaver tracked him, only to hesitate as Kryllian's mirrored countermeasures warped its targeting. The creature roared in frustration and fired a beam of concentrated energy. The blast vaporized an entire column where Jace had been moments earlier, turning metal into a glittering rain. He slid behind an overturned shuttle wing, chest heaving. Kryllian, how long can you distract it? He asked through gritted teeth. Not long, came the strained reply. My armor was not designed for such sustained refraction. Its frequency modulation is accelerating. Jace adjusted his grip on the rifle. The weapon felt impossibly small in the presence of something so catastrophically powerful. Yet it had done something, anything which was more than every plasma cannon and missile had managed. But to matter, he needed accuracy, not desperation. He peeked from behind the wing and studied the Reaver. Each joint held complex, overlapping plates, organic in motion, yet metallic in structure. The dent he'd caused marked one such vulnerable seam. He inhaled, braced the rifle, and fired again. The bullet struck closer to the seam's center, and this time the Reaver stumbled. Only half a step, but enough to send shock ripples of hope through Jace's veins. "You observed correctly," Kryllian said, repositioning to draw the creature's focus. "Its kinetic defenses are underdeveloped. Evolution favored energy resilience. Then we exploit that." The Reaver lunged. Its massive arm swung downward like a collapsing tower. Jace rolled aside, feeling the wind of its passage. The arm smashed into the shuttle wing, shearing it in half and sending scraps clattering across the bay. Jace scrambled to his feet, but the floor pitched suddenly as the deck sagged under the Reaver's weight. "Jace!" Kryllian's voice cut through the cacophony as the alien launched themselves into the fray, showering the Reaver's face with disorienting flashes. The creature reeled, clutching at the flickering lights with claws that sparked against its own armor. Jace saw his chance and bolted toward a stack of fallen cargo crates, leaping between them until he reached a higher vantage point. From here he could see more of the Reaver's back, the shifting plates, the vents releasing excess heat, the pulsating conduits feeding energy toward its core. The core itself remained buried beneath a fortress of overlapping layers, but each blow he dealt loosened something. He lined up another shot, exhaled slowly, and fired. The bullet struck a vent, causing a burst of molten fluid to spill out and sizzle across the deck. The Reaver shrieked, a sound that fractured into multiple frequencies like a malfunctioning siren. It spun toward him and charged. Jace leapt from the crates as the creature barreled through them, splintering steel like rotted wood. He hit the ground hard, his rifle skidding away. Before he could reach it, a shadow fell over him. Kryllian appeared in a blur, grabbing his arm and yanking him clear as the Reaver's foot crashed down where he'd lain moments earlier. "You will get yourself killed charging blindly," Kryllian scolded, dragging him behind a broken engine housing. "I hit something important," Jace panted. "It reacted, really reacted." "Agreed," Kryllian said, crystalline armor flickering dangerously. "But you must strike the same location again. Repetition will fracture the defense." The Reaver stomped closer, molten veins burning bright with fury. Jace crawled toward his rifle, fingers brushing the stock just as the creature loomed over them. Kryllian stepped forward, spreading their cracked arms wide. Light refracted, but weakly now, dimmed by damage. "Kryllian, don't." "I will endure," the alien insisted, though their body trembled. The Reaver screeched and swung its arm. Kryllian braced, but the last second Jace rolled beneath the creature's reach and fired upward, aiming for the same vent he had damaged. The bullet hit home. The vent ruptured completely. The Reaver staggered, slamming into a wall with enough force to cave it inward. Sparks rained as exposed conduits flared. "Kryllian," Jace gasped, pulling himself upright. "We can hurt it." The alien nodded slowly, eyes gleaming with something like pride. "Then we continue." The Reaver rose again, slower this time, movements uneven. Jace reloaded, hands steadying. The creature's defenses were cracking, literally. He could see the first glimpse of something glowing deep within its armor, something vulnerable. And for the first time, the Null Reaver stepped back. The Null Reaver's retreat was hesitant, almost animalistic, as if the concept of vulnerability was foreign to it. Jace felt a surge of adrenaline sharpen his senses. The creature's once fluid armor now dragged with visible strain, plates sagging where kinetic impacts had shattered their seamless pattern. Kryllian stepped beside him, crystalline frame flickering with fractures that pulsed faintly like wounded nerves. Though the alien's stance remained upright, Each movement revealed the cost of shielding Jace through the onslaught. "It knows pain," Jace whispered, tightening his grip on the rifle. "And now it knows fear," Kryllian replied, voice thin but steady. "Do not allow it the chance to adapt." The Reaver lowered itself, claws gouging deep trenches into the metal floor as it prepared to charge again. Sparks showered its limbs, each motion shedding fragments of overheated plating. Jace recognized the pattern, a desperate creature forced into a final gambit. He braced himself, but Kryllian raised an arm to hold him back. "Your position is compromised," the alien cautioned. "We must reposition before it regains momentum." Jace nodded and darted toward the collapsed framework of an auxiliary crane. Kryllian followed, steps uneven yet swift. The Reaver lunged in pursuit, its roar shaking loose panels from the ceiling. Jace dove into a narrow passage formed by twisted machinery, the metal biting into his palms as he crawled through. Kryllian slid after him, their luminous form casting jittering patterns across the walls. The Reaver slammed into the structure overhead, warping steel with the force of a meteor strike. Dust choked the air. Jace felt the vibrations through his ribs, but the cramped space held, creating a temporary shield. He emerged on the other side, gasping, bruised, but with a sense of purpose solidifying inside him. The Reaver burst through moments later, tearing apart the obstruction with raw fury. Its core, once hidden beneath layers of impenetrable plating, now glowed through cracked armor like a dying star exposed to vacuum. The fractured plates shifted unevenly, leaving a palm-sized opening that pulsed in erratic rhythms. "Jace," Kryllian murmured, "do you see it?" "I do. That is its biological core. Destroying it will neutralize the entire organism." Jace raised his rifle, aiming through the shifting haze. The distance was considerable, and the Reaver's movements unpredictable. One misfire, and they would lose the only chance they had carved from the impossible. He steadied his breath, but Kryllian touched his shoulder lightly. "You require elevation and stability. From here, you cannot succeed." Jace bit back his frustration because he knew Kryllian was right. "Then where?" Kryllian pointed toward the bow of a grounded dropship, half buried under wreckage but still accessible. Its angled ramp created a slope that led to what remained of the observation deck, a structure battered but intact enough to provide the vantage he needed. They sprinted together, weaving through debris as the Reaver advanced with murderous determination. It lashed out with a sweeping arm, sending a wave of shattered equipment crashing behind them. Jace leapt onto the ramp, boots sliding, and pulled himself up. Kryllian was just behind when the Reaver struck again, its claws smashing into the ramp side. The entire structure shuddered. "Kryllian, hurry!" The alien lunged forward but was caught by the shockwave of the impact, thrown sideways. Their crystalline body cracked against a fallen support beam. Jace scrambled down instinctively, reaching for them, but Kryllian raised a trembling hand. "Go," they said, voice flickering. "You must finish this. I'm not leaving you. You will not be leaving me. You will be honoring me." Kryllian pushed themselves upright, fractures glowing fiercely. "Strike the core. End this creature. I will hold its attention." Before Jace could argue, Kryllian stepped into the open and erupted in a dazzling cascade of refracted light, brighter and more chaotic than anything he had seen them produce. The Reaver recoiled, blinded, orienting entirely toward the alien whose broken body now blazed like a fractured sun. Jace forced himself back up the ramp, throat tight but resolve unshaken. He reached the observation deck and dropped to one knee, rifle braced against a gyroscopic mount that miraculously still held steady. Through the drifting smoke below, he saw Kryllian dancing between deadly strikes, their form flickering, shattering, and reforming with every movement. They were buying him seconds with pieces of themselves. He found the opening in the Reaver's armor. It flickered in and out of view as the creature twisted in frustration. Jace inhaled deeply, letting the noise fade. The chaos narrowed. The world slowed. His breath, his pulse, the weight of the rifle against his shoulder, all aligned. He squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out like the final word of an unspoken oath. The bullet streaked downward, slicing through drifting ash, and struck the Reaver's exposed core. A soundless shock rippled outward. The creature froze, limbs locking, glow intensifying into a blinding white. Then, with a rending shriek, the core imploded. The entire body collapsed inward, armor folding like extinguished petals. The remaining plates fell silent, heat fading into stillness. Jace lowered the rifle, chest heaving, and sprinted down to where Kryllian had fallen. The alien lay amidst dimming shards of their own armor, eyes faint but focused. "You succeeded," Kryllian whispered. "We succeeded," Jace corrected, kneeling beside them. Kryllian's fractured hand lifted weakly, resting against his arm. Human intuition, they murmured, an alien precision. A formidable union. Jace felt emotion swell in his chest, raw and complicated. "We'll get you repaired. I won't lose you." Kryllian's eyes glimmered. "Then rise, Jace Renn. The battle may be over, but the war has only just revealed its first hint." Jace turned toward the horizon beyond the ruined hangar. A low, distant rumble echoed across the desert. Ominous, unmistakable. Something else was coming. He tightened his grip on the rifle, steam still rising from its barrel. "Then we'll face it together," he said softly. Kryllian managed a faint smile. "As we must." The wind carried the last embers of the Reaver's demise into the sky, scattering them like warnings written in fire. Jace looked into the shimmering distance, uncertainty and resolve intertwining within him. Whatever approached, it would not find them unprepared. Not anymore.